Welcome to the B-side. As you know, we talk about our gig creator, and that's who we have here tonight, John from Dash Theory TV. So we're just going to talk a little bit about him. He's going to talk a lot about himself, and this is the platform to do that. It's not a news one, so you can go ahead and just tell us who you are, what's your story, where you're from, and then we'll jump into like your primary gig, your market, and those kind of things.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So John Dash, my channel Dash Theory TV on all the different channels. But I'm in Phoenix, Arizona by way of Anchorage, Alaska. So came out here in 2003, been here ever since. I love it out here. There's no winter out here. So, I mean, I grew up in a place where it was pretty much winter 9 months out of the year. So that was like my goal as an adult to get out of there, basically. So now I'm in Arizona where it's, like I said, you don't got to shovel sunshine. So
so the first part of your life, you took all the winters and now you take all the summers.
Pretty much. It'll balance out soon. So, yeah, I'm out here. I mean, I got into the gig economy initially in, I want to say 2019, 2018, as a matter of fact, saving up to buy a house, getting ready to buy my first house. So it helped me accomplish that. And so I've pretty much been involved with it ever since. It was a way just to make some extra money on my free time and save extra money up. So pay off bills, debt, whatever it may be. So that's one thing that I've always appreciated about it. And then in 2020, when COVID happened, got laid off and then went full time for the gig work for a long time. And then I just last year came back to part time. So
okay.
Yeah. But I do all the apps, pretty much everything out there.
No, did you do any gig work in Alaska? Is there gig work in Alaska?
So there is gig work in Alaska. I've never done gig work in Alaska. I've thought about it. I've been in Alaska to visit, turned on the apps. And I was like, Alaska's more spread out. You would think that the desert would be more spread out, but no, Alaska is, even though it's a smaller city.
Yeah.
So it's So no, I've never done it up there, but I know there's a lot of it's just become a thing up there, and I've seen some TikToks and things of people doing gig work up there, which is interesting. But I wouldn't want to do it in the winter. It's just I've been in enough just getting myself home in the winter, not to mention drive for other people.
Yeah, that would be brutal.
Go
ahead, Jesper.
Sorry about that. We can probably guess maybe from your name, but what is your primary? We talk about buckets. What's your primary bucket?
So you would think it's Doordash because of the name. No.
I was thinking.
So that's what originally it was. When I first started gig work, Doordash was my first app, and but then I've graduated to grocery delivery, as I like to say. Go to the grocery delivery, do a little bit more work, but make a little bit more money per time and per mileage, especially. And ever since the gas prices shot up, I'm looking to reduce my mileage, doing groceries, and trying to make as much money as I can. So nowadays, my primary is Walmart Spark.
Okay.
And about how many? So you said that you have gone to part time with us. So about how many hours a week do you do Spark?
I would say I do 3 to 4 days a week. So about I would say between 20 to 30 hours a week. So probably average like 24.
So definitely part time. I mean, not just. Oh, that's awesome.
So you were a full time gig worker, and then you said the pandemic hit, and then you went back to, or you got like a W-2 job?
The other way around.
Oh,
so
other way around.
I was a part-time, the pandemic hit, got laid off, then went full-time.
Okay.
Like the freedom, did that for a while,
Yeah.
but then as things changed with the economy, I was like, I want to get insurance on different things, got that. But with the full-time, was able to get a work-from-home job. So that way, definitely be able to keep my expenses low. And then as soon as I get off, I can pretty much go right down and do some work. That's one of the things that allows me to do as many hours as I do a week. So
sure.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's great. So Spark, are you doing the work from home? You're probably like a 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever.
So early days. So I have a 4x10 shift, but it's basically 5 a.m. to 3:30, and then this time of the year, then after the time change, what is it? The fall back, spring forward. Then it's 6 to 4:30.
Wait a minute. So they made your time different depending on the time change.
So it's an Arizona thing. So Arizona doesn't have daylight savings time. So we stay still when everybody moves forward an hour.
Yep.
Technically, because of my schedule is based off of Eastern Standard Time, it moves it that way. Yeah, it's compared to where it is now. So
because the main office of your remote is in Eastern Standard Time.
Exactly.
I see that all the time, particularly with remote. I was like, oh, that's what it is. Yeah, my wife's their main, so she's remote 100% too, and their main is actually in North. I want to say North Carolina. No, it can't be because it's actually an hour ahead too. I forget, but they same thing. So. So, but yeah, that's kind of interesting.
That is weird. I've never heard of that your schedule would have to change. Like, hey, guess what? We start at 6 a.m. now instead of 5. Like, this is the dumbest thing I ever heard, but I get it. It makes sense. If you're
so here's the funny thing about it too. So like when I was in training for the work at home job, it was like 9 to 5 or whatever. And then when I came out of training, it was at the time when it was like 6. And then we just had this time change and went back to 5. And so it's like, I don't remember signing up for this, but I guess I did.
5 a.m.
I mean, but let's be honest though. Everybody should just stop this. This nonsense. There's no reason for daylight savings time anymore. There's just just stop the nonsense.
It's the stupidest thing I ever heard of in my life. I mean, I get it. Way back in the day, whatever. We have a lot
of farming and all that stuff. It made more sense. So here's another thing that's even funnier. There's places in Arizona that don't have it.
Really?
Yeah. So like the Navajo reservation is just on the reservation. There's no daylight savings time. So
okay.
You can tell it's total bullshit.
Yeah, it is weird. There's a lot of old laws back from when we started this country that need to be revisited. You know, we won't go into details on that, but so back to my original question. You get done at 3:30 or 4, whatever the time change is, and then do you find that you do well with Spark in the evenings compared to when you used to do it during the day?
So no, I let me phrase that. I don't do as well in the evenings. No.
Yeah.
So in the evenings, that's when I'll do more Uber Eats, which is like my secondary. Because in my market, Doordash is hard to get a schedule if I'm not planning. And especially if you pause it and then you're off the schedule, you pause too long because you're doing too many good Uber Eats orders or whatever it may be. So
yeah,
nowadays in the evenings, turn on Uber Eats because I know that I can turn it on anytime I want to.
Yeah.
But I usually do Spark on my days off, and I like that because you can start as early as 7 a.m. when all the food apps are dead and get some decent orders at opening.
Yeah.
And pretty much hit my goal by about sometime between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. Just be good for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I've struggled a little bit on Spark. I went back to it in last fall, and it wasn't as good as it was before. I don't know if my Walmart got they saturated it with drivers or whatever, but I haven't done a Spark in so long. It's been crazy. I hate sitting still, so me just sitting in the parking lot waiting for an order when I know this is crazy. I've been doing more rideshare when I literally can turn on Lyft and Uber and immediately get work. It's busy enough during the day. Now they're not great rides like Jesper gets, from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. But I mean, I can stay busy on rideshare all day long. Now you're driving more and it doesn't pay as much, but sitting at Walmart and just waiting for them to drop and they may not even drop that day. I don't know. I just don't have the patience.
See, I have to learn that Walmart is very market specific.
Yes.
It's I'm lucky to be in a good market, but a market like that, I would do the same thing. I would go to a different app.
Well, it used to be ballin'. When it first came out for the first 2 years, I would clean up. I basically didn't have to do any other gig. I just could do Spark and clean up. And now it's ooh man, I don't know if I want to sit there and wait for this good one to drop,
Yeah, I can see that.
We actually just got a question from one of the audience, and I'd like to put that up here. So, John, what is your biggest challenge with Spark in Arizona?
So I would say when I first started Spark, I just only been on Spark for about, I'd say 8 months. Before that, it was shipped. So when I first started Spark, consistently got orders towards the beginning of this year, became a challenge to get orders. And lately it's come back around since the last month or two, I would say since probably March, spring break-ish. So getting orders at one time was a challenge. I would say nowadays, probably the next biggest challenge is right now I'm trying to figure out, is it worth having a high acceptance rate or not? And so that's probably my big challenge right now. I'm taking some orders, in this challenge, for lack of better terms, that in my opinion, I probably would bypass if I were cherry picking. None of them are, I would say, nearly horrible orders. Like you might see like I'll say $14 for like 7 miles would be like bad compared to like I typically prefer less than 5 miles and $20 or more. That's like my ideal Spark order.
Yep.
But I mean, those aren't compared to some people what I've seen on the internet where they say they're getting offered $8.50 to go 12 miles. They're not bad like that.
Right.
Oh, we got some of those. Yeah, and I'm not taking them. Are you doing any shop and delivers?
No, so that's the other thing that's great is that that's where I say not as necessarily a challenge because I would say 90% shop and delivers offered in my market, and shop and delivers for me coming from Shipped and Corner Shop.
Oh yeah,
that's my bread and butter. I'm in and out. If I get the other thing I get a lot of is smaller orders. So,
yes.
I love shop and delivers. I mean, if I get a good curbside pickup, I have no problem doing them. That's even easier. Just shop and deliver is faster. And of course, with curbside pickup, you may be waiting a while.
Yeah, that's the problem. You don't control your own destiny. You're kind of waiting for that order to come out. But the shop and delivers, you're like, boom, boom, in and out. Like, oh, yeah, I could flip those all day. I love those. And I take the small ones, too, when I do get them, like less than 20 items. Like, I'm not dealing with – I see these people pushing like 3 carts around. I'm like,
no.
And they're like, oh, I'm making $60. I'm like, really? It's going to take you 3 hours to shop that thing, and then you got to pack it up and deliver it? Like, that is not worth $60.
No, I screen every order. You got to have that cap in your mind. Like, I understand if it was like 3 carts and maybe a couple 100 plus or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But in my mind, I was looking at how long is it going to take me to complete this order? If it's, a big order, is it going to be, I would say, it's going to take me 2 hours. Is this worth 2 hours of my time?
Right.
I got to ask one more question about Spark, and then we'll jump into a little bit about your creation on YouTube. What is your thought about all these, like, and I don't know about it, and you may have done a video on this, but like the airplane mode, like I see people, because, I'm in all the groups, just to get chatter. Like I'm mostly a lurker. I don't really comment much on any of them, but I just like to read and just get information. And they talked about the airplane mode. What was that? I know they've taken it away. I've figured that out from all the comments, and people were pissed, but.
So what the airplane mode is that for curbside pickup orders, there's they offer you the offer around like say 15 minutes after the hour, but you can't pick it up until 45 minutes after the hour. So what airplane mode is that if you put your phone in airplane mode, you're able to start the trip and go early to check in, and then ideally get the order in your trunk and then get it delivered and then get another one faster.
Okay.
The problem with it was manyfold, but the big ones were when you go into airplane mode to let them know that you're, I guess, on the way. If you're not in airplane mode, it lets them know so they get the order ready. When you are in airplane mode, it doesn't let them know, so you're still going to wait when you get there. Number 2, the order may not be ready at all. They may still be shopping it, so you're still going to wait once again. The third one is probably if everything goes right and you do get it in time, and you deliver it, a lot of times the customer wasn't expecting that until after the turn of the hour.
Yeah.
So now all the customers' cold stuff goes bad and they get a bunch of complaints, and then you're more likely to get tip baited. And there's just so many other issues that came from it.
Yeah, I often wonder if they would turn it on, and then when they would get there, I wait 10 minutes and call on those deliveries. I call the store. I wonder if they would just call when they got there and say, hey, is it ready or whatever?
I'm sure they probably did. I would think, because after the first time you didn't, check in or you didn't get your order quickly, you're going to call. And that turns a whole other thing because like the people, the workers, they don't like that when they do airplane mode. So then they just make you wait at that point.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. Like they see stats and when you show up and all that, like they'll figure out that you're screwing them somehow.
Yeah, Walmart's known for getting all the stats.
Yeah, they know what you're doing. Eventually, they're going to be like, yeah, I know what you're doing, and I'm not going to bring it out on time anymore, so fuck you.
Yeah. Eventually, they can ban you, too. I found that out. Yeah. I was lurking on the online grocery pickup workers subreddit, asking them questions, and they're like, yeah, they hate when people do this, and I like when people do this, and I'm like, okay, interesting.
I always feel like someone's always got to exploit something. Like we can't have nothing nice around here. Like it's like amazing.
We're always looking for an edge, but that's kind of like my thing. I always try to find an edge. So
yeah, I mean, I'm fine if there's an Gary's apps or whatever. Like if it's not breaking terms of service and everything, like there's no problem with that. Like you're just using.
There's a lot of gray area.
There's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of gray area for sure.
Oh. See, this is why I don't do delivery.
So yeah,
it's just too hard. I just want to drive people around.
Jesper is so against delivery that he had a big bonus to hit this past weekend, and he was on Sunday, and he had like 13 rides, and he would not turn deliveries on because it counted.
Really,
deliveries counted for that. Like if you did a small like Uber Eats order, it counted for one of your trips. He wouldn't do it. He would rather suffer through slow passengers on Sunday than do deliveries.
You could get like 2 or 3 McDonald's orders done in an hour.
Sunday morning,
3 hours right there.
I was still having 3 an hour.
Yeah, you were not.
Really,
you were doing those long ass trips from downtown.
There was that one in the middle that was a pain in the
Whatever.
ass.
Don't act sheepish now. You were bitching about it all day Sunday.
Of course I was, but it took me 6 hours to do 13 rides. So I guess average 2 an hour, I guess.
That's not great.
So, John, getting back into I'm just gonna kick away.
I
don't want to talk about
moving on.
So, talking a little bit about your gig side, what are you telling us? Tell us about your YouTube channel. Tell us about what do you do there, and what's the purpose of the content you're creating.
So my channel, trying to give people an edge, trying to figure out these algorithms, or even just the tips and tricks. Trying to figure out best practices, share that with people. Ultimately, just trying to figure things out and then document it, have as much proof as I can, and then spread it out. I'm also a bit of a numbers guy, so whenever possible, I try to get some numbers in there. Try to see what's a better way to do things or not.
Right.
Also, looking at the different apps because I think there's a lot of the main apps. Doordash, everybody does Doordash, so. Some of the lesser known apps like Spark, not a ton of Spark content out there. There's more and more consistent Spark creators now. I've noticed since I've been doing it, but there's maybe I'd say 5 to 10 really. And then Uber Eats. I feel like there's a lot of good Uber Eats content, but I feel like a lot of the newer apps and then the apps in general are always evolving. Even DoorDash, even all of them. So it's just as I learn things, spread that knowledge, and ideally focus on the stuff that can give people a slight edge or be a tiebreaker.
Nice,
for sure.
About how many times a week do you try to post?
So I've been trying to post more and more often. So now I'm probably trying to get to one a week right now at least. This week I should be on maybe 2. So I'd say 1 to twice a week as far as long form content, but try to put out shorts at least 3 to 4 a week, if not more.
Well, here's one, so you're welcome.
So tell us a little bit about the process. I'm interested in that because you're unique, different from us, because like we live stream everything. Like we don't have we've had some original stuff, but like we don't produce or edit or the video. Like it is what it is. That's what goes up there. So I often wonder, you're like, when people hear you say you only do 1 a week, they're probably like, 1 a week, like what are you doing? But like, what is like the time frame, the process of like how long it takes to gather all that, the camera footage and editing and like, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the 1 a week, that's, got to keep in mind, I have the full-time work from home, then actually got to drive and capture, and then actually uploading and editing. So like my idea, I always try to do when it comes to ride-alongs, have a purpose for it. So like right now, all my ride-alongs are pretty much about acceptance rate. Also looking at the things that are like my situation specific. Like I said, I get 90% shop and deliver orders. So I have like as I see different changes in the app when I'm doing shop and deliver, or I notice new updates, I start to collect those things. And then all of a sudden I got 5 new things about shop and deliver, or, 5 little tricks, like things I didn't know when I started. Because I'm still learning new stuff every day. Like I just barely learned how to actually enter the barcode for fruit. I was entering it, looking at the actual barcode and realizing it was a 4-digit number. And then so I'm like, okay, I got to add that to a video. But little things like that add up over time. As far as for like the tips and tricks type things. But yeah, a lot of it is naturally occurring, or just even looking at what people are talking about on Reddit or Facebook and saying like, do I have anything to add to that conversation? Because sometimes I don't. Like a lot of the curbside pickup stuff, I don't get a lot of those orders, so I really don't have much to add.
Yeah.
But when it comes to shop and deliver, that's where I can say, hey, I've noticed that this is easy. This changed in the app. Like one of the big things recently is being able to shop out of order. So before you had to go in the specific order, put those things in. You couldn't substitute out of order, but now you can. So.
Oh, you can, because like that was always first of all, you used to not be able to even shop out of order, and then you're like, oh, you can shop out of order unless and everything has to be perfect. If you have to sub it, nope. Like, why even put that in the app? What a stupid coding thing. Like, okay, like we're trying to make this efficient. I get the cold and the stuff that needs to be cold. I understand that's got to be at the end. I have no problem with that. But like making me walk all over the freaking store. And I'm like, when I did it, I didn't even gamble on something on the other end. I just shopped it in order, because what if I go all the way over there and I got to sub it? Then I got to walk all the way back to grocery like an asshole and then go all the way back over and sub it.
See, what I would do back in those days is like, okay, I'd be like, okay, well, figure out, does it have a sub on? Because the other thing is like, you go back to try to sub it and you realize, oh, they don't even have subs on here.
Yeah.
I did that for no reason.
Yeah,
but I always use, I just take it, put it in the cart. I'm like, this is what the sub's going to be, one way or the other. And then I'd take it away. Then, when I get to the end, then I'd like do the subs in the little top tray and then scan it, and move along.
Yeah, I would do that. I started getting smarter with that, just grabbing it anyways. This is going to be the sub.
Pretty much.
Are you smart at that, Jason?
Nah, I'm a slow learner.
Do you want to hear a fun story about the fruit numbers? So it's actually an international concept that's been around forever. I used to work, like 30 years ago, I worked retail in Denmark, and it's the same numbers, John.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Wow.
The number for banana, I look at it, it's like, oh, that's what I used to type in every day when I saw bananas. It's the same number. Yes. These are
international banana conglomerate. Oh my goodness.
It's all the fruits. I mean, so they on the little label on the fruit, there's a little 4-digit number on the label on the fruit. And that's just, it's been the same number.
That's bizarre.
You know what that actually makes me realize? That's like a resume point now. I know how to code fruit.
Heck yeah.
There you go.
Be the new fruit guy at Walmart.
When I saw it the first time I bought.
Yeah. So going back to the video, which I'm really jealous of how you're able to create that way. I have all those thoughts in my head, like wanting to do that, like, but I just I can't put it all together. So I'm always like, I can talk for 4 hours on a podcast. Like I have no problem doing that. But creating that video. So I wanted to know, like, how many hours do you think you have in from like grabbing the content from Walmart and thinking about it and editing? Like, I'm assuming what do you edit it? I'm just curious. I
use iMovie. I'm everything I use is pretty much. It's pretty much old stuff. Like I have my cell phone. I use my cell phone to record, and my current one is like an S20, and then the other one I use is like the S8, which is like my phone before the S20. I got my laptop is just a 2013 or 14 MacBook Pro. Still ticking. That thing is solid. Has a little bit of battery life issues sometimes, so it keeps it plugged in. But outside of that, it's a strong computer.
Okay.
But as far as editing, iMovie, and then like a process for like these videos now, I know I'm going to be talking about acceptance rate, so I bring it out there. Click every order or screenshot every order, kind of identify like what are my goals. Like for initially it was, what are my problems with having a low acceptance rate, at least at that point, where not getting enough orders, wondering if I could get better paying orders, what if I can get lower distance orders. Wasn't seeing a lot of tips on orders. So that as I'm raising my acceptance rate, am I noticing a change? So putting all those orders in a spreadsheet, doing a little bit of formula, seeing, okay, are what's the 50s compared to the 60s, compared to the 70s?
No, right.
Then, kind of look at the data, trying to make some conclusions, and then see if those conclusions stay constant as I continue to, go through those acceptance rate. So that's kind of for the ride along series. That's kind of the thought process. So, like for a video, like where I'll say going to 50% acceptance rate, go out, say on a Tuesday morning, I know like 5 orders ideally should get me from 50 to 60%. If I'm taking them all, because Spark goes by 2%. and record my thoughts throughout the day, things that I notice. Then take pictures of the actual the cart, little things too that people want to see. What does the order look like in my cart and all those things. But yeah, besides that, I mean, a lot of times I'm sitting waiting for an order, kind of writing thoughts in my my Google Docs. I'm like, oh, I noticed this today, and then kind of dispersing it back, doing later on the day.
That's cool. I have to bring something up. This is I think I've never heard this. Jesper knows what I'm going to bring up. So you have a Mac, but you use Android phones, which is it's so funny. Like, I love how you said, because Jesper and I go back and forth about the Macs. Like, I have an Apple phone, but like the Macs are so expensive. Like, I can buy like 19 pieces.
That's why I have an old Mac.
but my point is it still works. It's got a little battery issue, but it's like built like a tank. But like,
I love them. Yeah,
I never heard anyone that had a Mac and then Android phones. It's always like.
So here's my theory. It's like, as far as the computer, I love Mac because I feel like they're, like you said, they have good value. You're gonna spend money on them.
Yeah.
But if it lasts you spread it over, 10 years versus when I had a Dell, it was 5 years. And then another 5 years, I was getting a new computer. I was like, okay, it'll last me 10, 15. Yeah. And then the Android phones, I love the open source. I love being able to download, being able to just be able to do what I want. I don't like the whole locked to the iTunes, Apple Store, iPhone environment at all.
That's fair. I'm surprised you go Samsung and not Pixel, though.
I was gonna say.
That's probably my next one. I haven't upgraded in a while, but like, I was like I said, I've started Samsung when I went from, I don't know, Motorola.
Yeah, back in the day.
So I'm stuck with Samsung forever at this point.
When I went from Samsung to Pixel, I saw a huge speed increase because there's no bloatware on it.
Oh,
and it's so nice.
So it's clean.
This is what it's supposed to work, right? There's nothing on it that's not supposed to be on there, right? And it's just
I've seen some Pixel pictures, and I love the camera on Pixel. That's the other thing that I love about that, man.
Yeah, I have a Pixel 4 that I use just for gig work, and it works just fine. Like, I don't use it anything else, and I'm like, yeah, it's I love it. So
I might have to look at a used Pixel just for my recording phone, just because of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're pretty good. Hey, since we're kind of getting a little bit up there in time, why don't you quickly share with us your best story out there from since 2019? What is that one story that just stands out?
Let me think, man. What is probably my best story? I don't really think I have too many exciting stories. I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
There's
totally
been
fine.
one. I could think of my biggest tip probably.
There we go.
That's the one. Probably was shipped. So shipped during the holidays when I first actually I have a funny story now that I thought of it. Okay, I'll tell you about my biggest tip, and then I'll tell you about like one of my funny stories. So shipped during the holidays, got a $50 tip on like a 10-item order.
Nice.
I want to say it was like in December, and it was like when I first started shipped. So I think I started shipped in November of probably 21, and and so it was like it made me love shipped from the get-go. And then from that, on top of that, there was a bunch of bonuses that would always overlap, and so for shipped was my favorite app for a good little bit.
Nice.
And and there's nothing special about the order either. It wasn't like a big grocery order.
Yeah.
It was just random, like maybe a sweater and maybe a case of water, but nothing like where I'm backbreaking and I'm thinking I better get a big tip. It was just okay. If I got a $10 tip on that order, I would have been happy.
Right.
Do you often find that I do, like the really super rich homes never tip, and then these hardworking folks, you know what I mean? They're just like they know they tip, and they're just like, dang, babe, you probably couldn't even afford that. You know what I mean? But you realize the value of the service, and it's just like, oh, it's so frustrating at times.
Yeah, it's kind of I used to go to like because kind of there's little areas of town where like the professional athletes in Arizona live, and I used to think, oh, dude, go over there, make more money. It was never the case.
Never the case. A couple other questions. I know we're over our time, but I'm having fun, and I don't care. It's my show.
It's your show.
So what? Well,
it's
our
my show too.
Sorry. When I say my show, it just implies it's yours too. Like we're a team. I want to know how you set yourself apart from other creators, because I know you talked about earlier that you got on the Spark stuff early, which is huge. Like YouTube's about getting on the soonest, right? Like getting on content on that. So how do you feel like you separate yourself from someone like maybe like 3 months ago that started talking about Spark content?
So I feel like probably the biggest thing is like when I make a video about whatever that topic is, 5 things I wish I knew, before I started Spark, or as my first day of Spark. I think that was probably my first Spark video.
Yeah.
I'd been doing Spark for probably 2 or 3 months before I made that, and made it really focus on that, and focus on the tips versus, I think I've seen videos where people like to intertwine ride-alongs with the tips. And if it's tips, it's going to be all tips. If it's a ride-along, there's going to be a purpose to it, but it's going to be more like a research. So kind of I guess I feel like I do more research and more kind of, I feel like I'm more analytical in many ways. I know even when it comes to some of the auxiliary apps or companion apps like Driver's Utility Helper and Maximo, I feel like I was relatively deep into those earlier on when there was a lot of content as much about, how to really dig into those apps. So.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I think that's it. I appreciate you coming on. I like to keep these short because I don't, I could talk to you forever, of course. Like,
right. Oh, yeah. You guys are easy to talk to. Hey, if we could do this, hours.
Shit, yeah, we could talk for hours. Like, but I want to try to keep this short. But it doesn't mean in the future you can't come on a regular show where we do news. And I've been on Steve's
I'd love
show
to be back on it.
For everything. And so, why don't you tell everyone that is listening and or watching how they can find you? Of course, on YouTube, but.
Yeah, Dash Theory TV. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Is there another one out there? Well, I think there's some other ones, but those are the ones that I care. I was like Snapchat. I don't think I'm on Snapchat.
Right.
Dude, we're on all that social shit, and it's like our Instagram's lame. I was even thinking about because you can do Instagram lives, but you have to do it from the phone. I'm like trying to think about some way to rig up something in the studio so we could do Instagram lives. It's
too much.
Can you do a tablet, or it has to be actual phone?
No, I think you could do a tablet. I think
tablet might be the way.
Yeah, I think it's doable. Although I don't really care I won't look at the comments. I mean, I care about them, but I can't see them anyways. And I wish they would I don't know what Jesper knows coding, but there's something that they have to release from Instagram that we can even do it on StreamYard. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would totally do it. It'd be worth it. But it's like so many of those social channels. It's so hard to keep up with all that stuff. Where do you think you are the most socially? Let's answer that.
Ooh, so definitely outside of YouTube, probably Instagram.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. If anybody wants to get in contact with me, that's the best way to get in contact with me. Probably DM me on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm on there at least say 5 days a week. Maybe not every day, but 5 days a week for sure.
Everybody's got the one that they use a lot. Like I met Steve from Rideshare Rodeo on Twitter, I think. I think that's where we connected. I've met a lot of people on Twitter. I
think I found you through Steve on Twitter initially or something like that. Yeah, I think we might have connected. Yeah. Yeah,
for sure. So, but yeah, I never find anybody on Instagram. I don't know what it is. But anyways, I'm rambling on. So, John, stay on after we're off. But everyone that's listening, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
142 next week, a regular format. You're still here next week? Like you're going to be on vacation in a couple weeks, right? May 10th?
A couple weeks. No, it's not until May 7th. Yeah.
And Steve's going to be the host on that night, so we'll tear it up. But anyways, John, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk to you in a week.
Thank you, John.
This podcast is produced and edited by Hey Guys Media Group. Want to start a podcast? Check out heyguysmediagroup.com.